please take your seats. And I'd like to remind all of you, I hope all of you put your mobile phones to silent mode. Just in case you didn't, you're requested to do so. Requesting all of you to please be seated. Those of you who are standing at the corners are requested to please take your seats.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Namaste, and hello to everyone who are present here. On behalf of Innovations for Defense Excellence, IDEX, Ministry of Defense, I welcome you all to a flagship innovation event, Manthan. I, Anshul Singh, Program Executive at Innovations for Defense Excellence, Ministry of Defense.
And I, Reena D'Souza, are your hosts for today. We are honored to have in our midst the senior officers of Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Home Affairs, esteemed dignitaries from various ministries, armed forces, chairmen and managing directors of defense PSUs, industry representatives who have joined us here today. We are also privileged to have many senior dignitaries present, including Vice Chief of Naval Staff, Chief of Integrated Defense Staff to the Chairman, COSC, Air Officer, Commanding-in-Chief, Maintenance Command, Deputy Chief of Air Staff, Director General, Border Roads. Also among us is a successful entrepreneur, leading promoter of startups, a mentor, investor, and of course, an admired actor, Mr. Sunil Shetty. Hearty welcome. And would also like to welcome all our foreign dignitaries. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all our investors and panelists who are gracing this event with your presence. We believe we are as good as our partners. Therefore, I humbly extend a hearty welcome to all our partner incubators present here today. Last but not the least, I welcome the heart and soul of this event, all our innovators who are developing futuristic technologies, thus advancing our vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat.
I request you all to kindly get seated. Honorable Raksha Mantri, Shri Rajnath Singh Ji has arrived at the venue. Honorable Raksha Mantri Ji and the esteemed dignitaries will be with us shortly. Meanwhile, I request you all to please be seated and put your mobile devices on silent.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this moment, Honorable Raksha Mantri is witnessing futuristic technologies developed by our IDEX winners. Today, we are showcasing 12 innovations that have been classified into 4 broad technology areas: autonomous systems, advanced sensors, space technology, and Industry 4.0.
Each of these areas is a focus point for the Indian Armed Forces, and our winners have made significant strides in achieving all the boundaries in these domains.
ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೆರೆದಿರುವ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಮತ್ತೊಮ್ಮೆ ಆದರದ ಸ್ವಾಗತ, ಸುಸ್ವಾಗತ. ಕೆಲವೇ ಕ್ಷಣಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ರಕ್ಷಾ ಮಂತ್ರಿಯವರು ವೇದಿಕೆ ಮೇಲೆ ಬರಲಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಯಾರೆಲ್ಲ ಆಸೀನರಾಗಿದ್ದೀರೋ ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮೊಬೈಲ್ ಫೋನ್ಸ್ಗಳನ್ನು ಸೈಲೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored by the presence of Honorable Raksha Mantri, Shri Rajnath Singh Ji. Please join me in welcoming our Honorable Defence Minister, Shri Rajnath Singh Ji. On behalf of Innovations for Defence Excellence, Minister of Defence, I extend a very warm welcome to one and all to the Manthan.
इस शुभ अवसर की शोभा बढ़ाने के लिए माननीय रक्षा मंत्री श्री राजनाथ सिंह जी का हमारे बीच होना हमारे लिए सम्मान की बात है। सर, हम आपका तहे दिल से स्वागत करते हैं। माननीय रक्षा मंत्री महोदय, आप वो प्रेरणा और बल हैं जिसने आईडेक्स को रक्षा में आत्मनिर्भरता प्राप्त करने की दिशा में अपनी यात्रा के दौरान हमेशा निदर्शित किया है। महोदय, आज के कार्यक्रम में आपकी उपस्थिति ने हम सभी को और विशेष रूप से स्टार्टअप्स और आईडेक्स विजेताओं को उत्साह से भर दिया है। इस प्रतिष्ठित आयोजन के लिए मंच पर विराजित गणमान्य व्यक्तियों का स्वागत करना मेरे लिए सम्मान की बात है। माननीय रक्षा मंत्री श्री राजनाथ सिंह जी, चीफ ऑफ डिफेंस स्टाफ जनरल अनिल चौहान, पीवीएसएम, यूवाईएसएम, एवीएसएम, एसएम, वीएसएम, नौसेना प्रमुख एडमिरल आर हरिकुमार, पीवीएसएम, एवीएसएम, एडीसी, सेना प्रमुख जनरल मनोज पांडे, पीवीएसएम, एवीएसएम, वीएसएम, एडीसी, रक्षा सचिव श्री गिरिधर अरमाने जी, वित्तीय सलाहकार रक्षा सेवाएं श्रीमती रसिका चौबे जी, अपर सचिव एवं महानिदेशक अधिग्रहण रक्षा विभाग श्री पंकज अग्रवाल जी, अपर सचिव रक्षा उत्पादन विभाग श्री टी नटराजन जी। हम एक बार फिर पूरे सम्मान के साथ सभी गणमान्य व्यक्तियों का स्वागत करते हैं और उनकी बहुमूल्य उपस्थिति के लिए धन्यवाद देते हैं। इस कार्यक्रम को आगे बढ़ाने से पहले हम आप सभी को ये बताना चाहेंगे कि आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने वर्ष 2018 में डिफेंस एक्सपो के दौरान इनोवेशंस फॉर डिफेंस एक्सीलेंस आईडेक्स को लॉन्च किया था, जिसका मुख्य उद्देश्य है देश को रक्षा क्षेत्र में आत्मनिर्भर बनाना, डिफेंस स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम को बल देना, देश के युवा इनोवेटर्स को डिफेंस टेक्नोलॉजी एवं इनोवेशंस के माध्यम से राष्ट्र विकास से सहभागी बनाना और आईडेक्स इनोवेशन के लिए प्रधानमंत्री पुरस्कार से सम्मानित है। और आज आईडेक्स स्टार्टअप्स कम बजट में और कम समय सीमा में इंडियन डिफेंस इकोसिस्टम की अत्यंत जटिल समस्याओं की सुलझा रहे हैं और जय अनुसंधान को बढ़ावा दे रहे हैं। मंथन 2023 एक विशेष कार्यक्रम है जहां पर हम कई नए सारे इनिशिएटिव्स को रक्षा मंत्री जी के कमलों द्वारा आज लॉन्च करने वाले हैं।
Sir, with your blessings, we shall begin today's annual Defence Innovation event, Manthan. May I now invite the Defence Secretary, Shri Giridhar Armane ji, to deliver the welcome address.
I extend a very warm welcome to Honorable Raksha Mantri ji, Chief of Defence Staff, Chief of Naval Staff, Chief of Army Staff, FADS, DG Acquisition, AS Defence Production, the various officers from the MOD and DPSU, dignitaries, invitees, ladies, gentlemen, most importantly, the entrepreneurs, the young startup promoters. I heartily welcome all of you to this edition of Manthan. The Ministry of Defence aims to create an ecosystem which fosters innovation and encourages technology development in defence by engaging R&D institutes, academia, startups, and individual innovators. The underlying objective is to make the country Atmanirbhar in the domain of defense innovation and development. In order to facilitate this, Innovations for Defense Excellence Defense Innovation Organization has organized Manthan today. It is a flagship event dedicated to all IDEX shareholders to identify the way ahead for the Indian defense ecosystem. Last year, Honorable Prime Minister launched two major initiatives under IDEX, Sprint and Mission DevSpace, to encourage private sector participation in innovation promotion. Sprint was launched with 75 problem statements on advanced technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, radar, autonomous systems, and underwater communication. Currently, one product is undergoing advanced trials and a few others are very well ahead in the development phase. Mission Defense Space was launched with 75 defense space challenges aimed at developing technologies addressing every stage of space mission, from mission planning to satellite data analytics. These challenges saw overwhelming participation from space industry ecosystem in India and even abroad. Today, we welcome some of these winners to our IDEX fraternity. IDEX is engaging over 300 startups under DISC challenges, Open Challenges, and IDEX Prime. Today, over 60 winners of DISC, OC, and IDEX Prime will be felicitated by Honorable Raksha Mantriji. It is heartening to see the enthusiastic response to IDEX scheme from all stakeholders. In a few moments, Honorable Raksha Mantriji will launch the 9th edition of DISC. This edition of DISC is unique for two reasons. Firstly, DISC 9 is a foray into IDEX into another important technology, cyber security. With increasing digitization of Indian defense, cyber security has become crucial to safeguard sensitive defense data from malware and phishing attacks. We hope to innovate and induct these technologies in our government soon. Secondly, it gives me great pleasure to announce that DISC 9 is a collaboration with Ministry of Home Affairs. The challenges have been curated from DPSUs, all the services, and the Ministry of Home Affairs, reflective of the interest IDEX has generated. I am glad to see that stakeholders in national security are coming together on a common platform. MOD is procuring and inducting various technologies from IDEX winners, including 360-degree situational awareness, loitering munitions, thermal imaging, quantum key distribution system, RF jamming and anti-jamming, surveillance and reconnaissance. This shows the growing confidence of our services in the startups and innovative power of entrepreneurs. That shows the leadership being provided by various levels in our armed forces to handhold the startups and the young entrepreneurs. MOD has delivered on its promise to ease industry's investment in R&D and production. We have made changes in IDEX scheme as suggested by the environment, removed certain testing procedures and quality assurance requirements. Your suggestions and feedback in this regard are welcome. I am sure our youth will step up and make India self-reliant in defense. Without further ado, let me invite Honorable Raksha Mantriji, under whose direction and leadership all this has been possible, for his comments and encouraging words for the young entrepreneurs. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Chief of Defence Staff, General Anil Chauhan, Chief of Naval Staff, Admiral R. Hari Kumar, Chief of Army Staff, General Manoj Pandey, Sri Girdhar Armane, Defence Secretary, Srimati Rashika Chaube, FADS, Sri Pankaj Agarwal, DG Acquisition, and Sri T. Natarajan, Additional Secretary, Defence Production, अन्य सारे senior officers, इंडस्ट्री लीडर्स, स्टार्टअप इंटरप्रेन्योर्स, और मैं कहना चाहूँगा कि जो स्टार्टअप इंटरप्रेन्योर्स हैं, आई एम वेरी इम्प्रेस्ड बाई देयर क्रिएटिविटी एंड इंथुजियाज्म, क्योंकि आज जो कुछ भी मैंने देखा है, विनर्स ऑफ आइडेक्स, मीडिया के मित्रों, देवियों व सज्जनों, आज एरो इंडिया 2023 में हो रहे इस स्टार्टअप मंथन आयोजन के अवसर पर आप सबके बीच उपस्थित होकर मुझे बेहद खुशी है। Dear friends, as you know that the manthan means churning. Churning causes old to be replaced by new. Churning releases new forms, new things, new ideas, and new practices. In our mythology, churning releases the divine nectar or amrit. My young friends, the churning led by you would release amrit of technology, amrit of security, and amrit of prosperity, thus making the next 25 years amrit kal. सबसे पहले मैं इस आयोजन से जुड़े सभी प्रतिभागियों को अपनी तरफ से हार्दिक बधाई भी देता हूं और साथ ही मैं शुभकामनाएं भी देता हूं। साथियों, हमारे देश में स्टार्टअप्स को लेकर पिछले कुछ वर्षों में जो एक इन्वायरमेंट बना है, मैं देख रहा हूं कि हमारे युवाओं के लिए वह किसी वरदान से, किसी बूंद से यह कम नहीं है। डिफेंस सेक्टर ही नहीं, बल्कि सभी सेक्टर्स की बात मैं कर रहा हूं। और 7-8 वर्षों में हमारे देश में स्टार्टअप की संख्या उंगलियों पर गिनी जाती थी कि कितने हैं, लेकिन आज उनकी संख्या मोर देन 1 लाख तक पहुंच गई है, 100 से ऊपर। तो हमारे यहाँ यूनिकॉर्न्स हमारे देश के युवाओं ने खड़े कर दिए, और यह हमारे देश में न्यूली क्रिएटेड स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम की इम्पॉर्टेंस को भी बताती है। साथ ही हमारे यूथ के भीतर भी आया नया जोश और कुछ नया कर गुजरने का जो जुनून है, उसको भी यह शोकेस करता है। जब मैं यहाँ यूथ कह रहा हूँ तो उससे मेरा मतलब नई उम्र से ही नहीं है, मेरा मतलब नई सोच के लोगों से भी है। तो उचित अवसर पाते ही देश के लिए कुछ नया करने का ये हौसला रखते हैं, जो यह नहीं देखते कि सामने समस्याएं क्या क्या हैं और हमारे पास रिसोर्सेज क्या क्या हैं, जो बस यह देखते हैं कि सामने टारगेट क्या है, हमारा लक्ष्य क्या है, और वे अपना लक्ष्य पाने के लिए धरती आकाश एक कर देते हैं। डिफेंस सेक्टर में तो मैं देख रहा हूं कमाल कर रहे हैं हमारे नौजवान। आईडेक्स जैसे इनिशिएटिव के माध्यम से देश के कोने कोने से ऐसे टैलेंट सामने आ रहे हैं जो कभी सोचे भी नहीं गए थे, और हमारी सर्विसेज, हमारी डीपीएसयूज, कोस्ट गार्ड सब एकजुट होकर चुनौतियां दिए जा रहे हैं, और हमारे युवाओं को, और अब तो होम मिनिस्ट्री के ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस भी इसमें शामिल हो गए हैं प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट जारी करने में। बावजूद इसके हमारे युवाओं का जज्बा देखिए कि क्या मजाल कोई प्रॉब्लम उनके प्रयासों से अछूती रह जाए। क्या आर्मी, क्या नेवी, क्या एयरफोर्स, क्या डीपीएसयूज, क्या साइबर, क्या स्पेस, यानी हर प्रॉब्लम का जवाब पाने का जज्बा है हमारे नौजवानों के पास। साथियों, ह्यूमन बीइंग की कुछ नया कर गुजरने की टेंडेंसी के कारण ही यह नेचर के बाकी क्रिएशन से श्रेष्ठ है। मनुष्य, ह्यूमंस ने अगर इतना प्रोग्रेस किया है तो उसके पीछे उनका इनोवेटिव टैलेंट ही है। ह्यूमन काइंड में भी वही सोसाइटीज अधिक डेवलप होती हैं जो कुछ नया खोज पाने में समर्थ होती हैं। साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी के क्षेत्र में तो यह बात सबसे अधिक लागू होती है। पहले एक कहावत कही जाती थी कि नया 9 दिन का और पुराना 100 दिन का, पर साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी के क्षेत्र में रोजाना नए होते इनोवेशन ने इस कहावत को कहीं पीछे छोड़ दिया है, मेरा यह मानना है। यहाँ नया 9 तो क्या, 100 तो क्या, पिछले सदियों तक के ज्ञान पर यह भारी पड़ता है। नई नई खोजों और आविष्कारों ने अतीत से अब तक चले आ रहे ज्ञान में आमूल चूल परिवर्तन करने का कार्य किया है। नई नई खोजों और आविष्कारों ने नया इतिहास लिखने का भी कार्य किया है। जेम्स वाट, न्यूटन, एडिसन और आइंस्टीन की खोजों और आविष्कारों ने तत्कालीन बड़े बड़े इंटेलेक्चुअल्स के मस्तिष्क को आंदोलित कर दिया था। शुरुआत में लोगों ने इनके कामों को एक सनक और दिमागी खुराफात के अलावा कुछ नहीं समझा, पर समय के साथ उन्होंने अपने आप को साबित किया और पूरी दुनिया में अपना लोहा मनवाया। हमारे देश में सीवी रमन, जेसी बोस से लेकर डॉक्टर होमी जहांगीर भाभा जैसे अनेक साइंटिस्ट की यह परंपरा रही है, जिन्होंने दुनिया को न केवल नया ज्ञान दिया बल्कि समस्त ज्ञान विज्ञान की धारा को एक नई दिशा दी और हमारे देश का नाम विश्व पटल पर लाने में अपना योगदान दिया है। यह सब कुछ नया करने के जज्बे के कारण ही संभव हो सका है। कहना मैं ये चाहता हूं साथियों कि आपके भी मस्तिष्क की कोई एक खुराफात पूरी दुनिया की अब तक की चली आ रही ज्ञान और विज्ञान और उद्योग धंधों की धारा को बदलने और उसे नई एक दिशा देने की भी क्षमता रखता है। आप सभी हेनरी फोर्ड की असेंबली लाइन मैन्युफैक्चरिंग प्रोसेस के बारे में आप में से कुछ जानते होंगे, सभी तो नहीं जानते होंगे लेकिन कुछ जानते होंगे। इसके इनोवेशन ने अब तक के चले आ रहे प्रोडक्शन सिस्टम में ट्रांसफॉर्मेशनल चेंज कर दिया था। इसलिए आज हमारा देश युवाओं को अगर कुछ नया सोचने और कुछ नया कर दिखाने के लिए सपोर्ट कर रहा है, इसका कोई छोटा मतलब नहीं है। इसका बस यह मतलब नहीं है कि हमारे युवा अपने पैरों पर खड़े हो जाएं। इसका मतलब बस यह भी नहीं है कि हमारे युवाओं को रोजगार मिल जाए और वे कुछ रोजगार औरों के लिए भी पैदा कर सकें। इसका मतलब बस यह भी नहीं है कि हमारे युवा स्वदेशी सामान बना सकेंगे और बाहर देशों पर से हमारी निर्भरता कम हो सकेगी या पूरी तरह से खत्म हो जाएगी। यह सभी अपने आप में महत्वपूर्ण हैं, बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण है, पर कुछ है जो इन सबसे भी महत्वपूर्ण है, जिसे हमारे देश को तलाश है। और वह महत्वपूर्ण चीज़ है हमारे युवाओं के भीतर से एक जेम्स वाट, एक न्यूटन, एडिसन, आइंस्टीन, सीवी रमन, जेसी बोस या डॉक्टर होमी जहांगीर भाभा को खोज निकालना, जो इतिहास की धारा को मोड़ सकें और मानवता को कुछ नई और मीनिंगफुल चीज दे सकें। और जिस तरह आप लोगों का रिस्पांस हमें मिल रहा है, मैं इस बात को लेकर पूरी तरह से आश्वस्त हूं कि जल्द ही हमारा देश इनोवेशंस के मामले में दुनिया के अग्रणी देशों में से एक होगा और अतीत की भांति ही भविष्य में भी समस्त विश्व के लिए एक लाइट हाउस बनकर उभरेगा। स्टार्टअप मंथन जैसे आयोजन इस लाइट हाउस को नई चमक प्रदान करेंगे, ऐसा मेरा विश्वास है। साथियों, स्टार्टअप मंथन इंडियन डिफेंस स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम के विकास की यात्रा का एक शानदार उत्सव है। मैं इसे एक फेस्टिवल के रूप में देखता हूं और हमारे इनिशिएटिव इनोवेशन फॉर डिफेंस एक्सलेंस यानी IDEX की सफलता का एक यह इंडिकेटर है, उसका यह सूचक है। IDEX ने अब तक के अनेक होम ग्रोन टेक्नोलॉजीज को डेवलप होने और आगे बढ़ने में मदद की है। इसने स्टार्टअप्स के लिए इनोवेशंस और टेक्नोलॉजिकल डेवलपमेंट्स को शोकेस करने का एक इम्पॉर्टेंट प्लेटफॉर्म भी प्रदान किया है। और इसके साथ साथ डिफेंस सेक्टर में आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, ऑगमेंटेड रियलिटी और ब्लॉकचेन जैसे फ्यूचरिस्टिक टेक्नोलॉजीज को भी हमारे प्रोफेशनल्स को अच्छी तरह से जानने समझने का एक अवसर IDEX ने उपलब्ध कराया है। IDEX के माध्यम से शुरू हुए स्टार्टअप्स को अब तक ऑर्डर्स भी मिलने शुरू हो गए हैं, जिससे स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम को और अधिक प्रोत्साहन मिला है। साथियों, IDEX अब तक सैकड़ों की संख्या में इनोवेटर्स को मार्केट में इंट्रोड्यूस कर चुका है और इस प्रकार हजारों स्किल्ड और सेमी स्किल्ड भारतीयों को डायरेक्ट और इनडायरेक्ट रूप से एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेशन में भी मदद मिली है। इन सब के चलते ही IDEX को इनोवेशन कैटेगरी के तहत PM अवार्ड से भी सम्मानित किया गया है। आईडेक्स विनर्स का बिजनेस एक्सपैंड होगा तो देश में लाखों लोगों को रोजगार मिल सकेगा और इस तरह यह हमारे देश के अनेक नागरिकों की सोशियो इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट को बेहतर करने की दिशा में भी एक महत्वपूर्ण कदम है, ऐसा मैं मानता हूँ। इसे ध्यान में रखते हुए मंत्रालय ने आईडेक्स स्टार्टअप्स और एमएसएमई से प्रोक्योरमेंट के लिए एक सिंप्लीफाइड और फास्ट ट्रैक प्रोसीजर को भी मंजूरी दी है। आईडेक्स ने डिफेंस इकोसिस्टम में आत्मनिर्भरता प्राप्त करने के लिए रास्ते भी खोले हैं। हमारे नए एंटरप्रेन्योर्स को लार्जर प्रोजेक्ट्स के डेवलपमेंट के लिए इनकरेज करने के लिए हमने अब तक दी जा रही ग्रांट्स को भी बढ़ाने का निर्णय लिया है। यह हमारे इनोवेटर्स और स्टार्टअप्स की मेहनत, उनकी लगन और उनके प्रोत्साहन के लिए सरकार के सपोर्ट को भी दर्शाता है। एज ए गवर्नमेंट ये हमारी जिम्मेदारी है कि हम अपने पॉलिसी इंटरवेंशन के माध्यम से इन टेक्नोलॉजीज के डेवलपमेंट को सपोर्ट करें ताकि नए एंटरप्रेन्योर्स नए अवसरों का स्वाभाविक रूप से लाभ उठा सकें। साथियों, आज मुझे डिफेंस इंडिया स्टार्टअप चैलेंज यानी डिस्क 9 के लॉन्च की घोषणा करते हुए बेहद खुशी हो रही है। हर बार की तरह इस बार भी युवाओं के सामने अनेक चुनौतियां रखी गई हैं। मैं डिस्क 9 की सफलता की भी कामना करता हूं और आज जब हमारे अनेक युवा साथी इस आयोजन में उपस्थित हैं तो मैं आप लोगों के सामने अपनी कुछ बातें भी यहां पर रखना चाहूँगा। साथियों, दुनिया के अग्रणी देशों की कतार में अगर हमें आना है तो हमें बस चलने की नहीं बल्कि हमें दौड़ने की और एक लंबी छलांग लगाने की ज़रूरत है। और हम सभी जानते हैं कि 18वीं सेंचुरी में इंडस्ट्रियल रिवॉल्यूशन के चलते ब्रिटेन आदि देशों ने अच्छी खासी तरक्की की है, यह जग जाहिर है। क्योंकि उस समय हम राजनीतिक रूप से गुलाम थे, पराधीन थे, हमारी आर्थिक और सामाजिक स्थिति उतनी मजबूत नहीं थी, इसलिए इंडस्ट्रियल रिवॉल्यूशन का हम वैसा फ़ायदा नहीं उठा पाए जैसा फ़ायदा हमको उठाना चाहिए था। इसका परिणाम यह हुआ है कि हम आज भी अनेक क्षेत्रों में उनकी बराबरी नहीं कर पा रहे हैं। साथियों, हालांकि हमें 75 साल पहले आज़ादी मिली, देश में एक नई भावना का संचार भी हुआ है, राष्ट्र कुछ नया करने की सोच के साथ आगे भी बढ़ा है, पर सैकड़ों वर्षों की गुलामी की छाया को कुछ ही समय में मिटा देना यह संभव नहीं था। देश में आर्थिक बदहाली थी, देश में कैपिटल की समुचित व्यवस्था नहीं थी, शिक्षा और स्वास्थ्य की दृष्टि से भी स्थिति बहुत अच्छी नहीं थी, टेक्नोलॉजी के मामले में हम काफ़ी पीछे खड़े थे और ऐसे में देश को संभालने में एक लंबा समय गुजर गया। आज भी डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज कॉलोनियलिज्म से प्रभावित थर्ड वर्ल्ड कंट्रीज से कहीं बहुत आगे हैं। अब प्रश्न उठता है कि जो कंट्रीज रेस में बहुत आगे हैं उनसे बराबरी कैसे की जा सकती है या उनसे आगे कैसे निकला जा सकता है। प्रगति की राह में जो दौड़ उन्होंने 250-300 साल पहले शुरू की, वह दौड़ हमने अब कहीं जाकर शुरू की है, यानी हमारी स्टार्टिंग लाइन अलग अलग है। तो दोनों के बीच फेयर रेस कैसे होगी? जाहिर है यह रेस हमारे लिए एडवर्स होगी। इसे एक उदाहरण के तौर पर आप समझें, मैं कोशिश करूंगा समझाने की कि किसी व्यक्ति ने अपनी जर्नी फार्मूला 1 की रेसिंग कार से शुरू की, साथ में एक दूसरा व्यक्ति अपनी जर्नी एक बाईसाइकिल से शुरू की या शुरू कर रहा है। अब दोनों में समानता कहीं दूर दूर तक नहीं है, पर जर्नी एक साथ कंप्लीट करनी है, यह कैसे संभव होगा, यह विचार करने वाली बात है। मैं जो कहना चाहता हूं वह यह है कि कंपटीशन के स्वरूप अगर बदल दिया जाए और उसके पैरामीटर बदल दिए जाएं, तो क्या यह गेम चेंजर नहीं हो सकता है? ठीक वैसे ही कि कछुआ पानी का कछुआ जिसे आप समझते हैं, यानी जिसको टार्टवाइज कहते हैं, और खरगोश यानी इसे रैबिट की दौड़ में पहली बार हार जाने के बाद कछुआ जमीन के बजाय पानी में रेस का प्रस्ताव रखे, जाहिर सी बात है कि यह बाजी पलटने वाली रेस होगी। ठीक उसी तरह फार्मूला 1 रेसिंग कार और बाईसाइकिल के बीच कंपटीशन में अगर पैरामीटर जल्दी दूरी तक करने की बजाय यह रखा जाए कि कौन अधिक इन्वायरमेंट फ्रेंडली और हेल्दी वे में परफॉर्मेंस दे सकता है, तो जाहिर है जीत साइकिलिस्ट की होगी। कहने का मतलब यह है कि अगर हमें डेवलपमेंट करना है तो कंपटीशन को हमें रीडिफाइन करना ही होगा। अगर हम पुरानी टेक्नोलॉजी और प्रोडक्शन के पुराने सिस्टम से आगे बढ़ने के बारे में सोचेंगे तो हम उन देशों से 2 सेंचुरी हमेशा ही पीछे रहेंगे ही रहेंगे। और इसलिए आज आवश्यकता है कि हम नए तरीकों से सोचें और नए तरीकों से ही हम आगे बढ़ें। उदाहरण के लिए हो सकता है कि सोलर एनर्जी या विंड एनर्जी के क्षेत्र में हम उन देशों से कुछ वर्ष पीछे हों। ऐसे में इन सेक्टर्स में हम कुछ अच्छा और नया करके दोनों के बीच के गैप को जल्दी ख़त्म कर सकते हैं। एक दूसरी बात, जो पारंपरिक चीज़ें चली आ रही हैं उसमें हमारा प्रयास हो कि हम कुछ नया करें। इसका एक बड़ा उदाहरण हमारे देश में विकसित यूपीआई पेमेंट मेथड है। यह मेथड पूरी दुनिया को भारत की देन है, जिसे आप जैसे युवाओं ने ही डेवलप किया है और इसके पहले यह दुनिया में कहीं एडॉप्ट नहीं किया गया था। अमेरिका जैसे देश भी आज इसकी स्टडी कर रहे हैं। कुल मिलाकर हमें अगर नेक्स्ट जनरेशन इंडस्ट्रियल रिवॉल्यूशन लानी है तो या तो हम नई चीज़ें करें या फिर चली आ रही चीज़ों को नए तरीके से करने का हम प्रयास करें। मॉरल ऑफ द स्टोरी कि हम इनोवेशन करें। इनोवेशन यानी नए तरीके से सोचना, जो कि आप जैसे युवा भली भांति कर सकते हैं। मैं पूरी तरह से इस मामले में कॉन्फिडेंट हूं। जो कुछ भी मैंने अपनी आंखों से देखा है, कर सकते हैं आप। अगर हमें अन्य देशों से आगे निकलना है तो नए लोगों और स्टार्टअप्स को सामने आना आवश्यक है। मेरी नज़र में स्टार्टअप का अर्थ है न्यू एनर्जी, स्टार्टअप का अर्थ है न्यू कमिटमेंट और स्टार्टअप का अर्थ है न्यू इंथुजियाज्म। पुराने और एस्टेब्लिश्ड ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस अक्सर किसी न किसी प्रकार की रूढ़ियों से बंधने लगते हैं। कई बार वे नई टेक्नोलॉजी आर्किटेक्चर को अडॉप्ट करने में अपने को बहुत ही सहज नहीं महसूस करते, बल्कि असहज होते हैं। वहीं स्टार्टअप नए माहौल में शुरू होते हैं और नएपन के साथ ही वो आगे भी बढ़ते हैं। इसलिए हमारे राष्ट्र को अगर नई ऊंचाइयों पर ले जाना है तो नए लोगों को और स्टार्टअप्स को नए जोश के साथ सामने आना यह आवश्यक होगा। साथियों, आप लोग अवगत हैं कि जब हमारा देश आज़ाद हुआ था तब भारत के प्रथम प्रधानमंत्री पंडित जवाहरलाल नेहरू ने देशवासियों को ट्राइस्ट विद डेस्टिनी यानी डेस्टिनी से भेंट का उन्होंने एक आह्वान किया था। उसका अर्थ था कि हमारे देशवासी पिछला दुख दर्द भुलाते हुए अपनी डेस्टिनी से मुलाकात करें। क्योंकि उस समय हम बहुत ही सशक्त नहीं थे, उतने समर्थ भी हम नहीं थे, इसलिए देश की डेस्टिनी से सिवाय मिलने और समझने के कुछ और कर भी हम नहीं सकते थे। पर अब स्थितियां काफ़ी बदल चुकी हैं। अब हमारे बाजुओं में भी वह ताकत आ गई है कि जो पहले कभी नहीं था। और आज आज़ादी के 75 साल के बाद हमें अवसर मिला है कि ट्राइस्ट विद डेस्टिनी से आगे जाते हुए डिज़ाइन अवर डेस्टिनी के पथ पर हम आगे बढ़ें। आगे से हमारा मंत्र होना चाहिए डिज़ाइन अवर डेस्टिनी। आगे का हमारा मंत्र होना चाहिए डिज़ाइन अवर डेस्टिनी, यानी हम अपने पुरुषार्थ, अपनी क्षमताओं और अपने संकल्प से अपनी डेस्टिनी को के डिज़ाइन की ओर आगे बढ़ें, उसका निर्माण करें। हमारी डेस्टिनी है आने वाले 25 वर्षों में दुनिया की टॉप इकोनॉमी बनना। हमारी डेस्टिनी है कि साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी सुपर पावर बनना। अमृतकाल ही इसके लिए सर्वोत्तम काल है। हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी ने बहुत समझबूझ के यह नाम रखा है। अमृतकाल ही इसके लिए सर्वोत्तम काल है और आप जैसे युवा ही देश की डेस्टिनी के सर्वोत्तम डिजाइनर हैं। आप डेस्टिनी के सर्वोत्तम डिजाइनर भी हैं, आप डेस्टिनी के सर्वोत्तम डेवलपर भी हैं। मैं पिछले सभी IDEX विनर्स को एक बार फिर से अपनी तरफ से हार्दिक बधाई देता हूं। और आगामी सभी आईडेक्स पार्टिसिपेंट्स को अपनी हार्दिक शुभकामनाएं भी देता हूं। हमारे यहाँ कहा गया है उद्यमात सकल समृद्धि, यानी उद्यम अथवा मेहनत और लगन से सभी प्रकार की सिद्धि और समृद्धि यानी प्रॉस्पेरिटी यह संभव है। आने वाले समय में आप लोगों की सफलता केवल आप ही नहीं बल्कि आपके परिवार, समाज और राष्ट्र की सफलता साबित होगी, ऐसा मेरा पक्का विश्वास है। इस आयोजन में उपस्थित आप सभी के प्रति मैं हार्दिक कृतज्ञता व्यक्त करता हूं, जो डिफेंस सेक्टर में इनोवेशन को बढ़ावा देने के लिए यहाँ उपस्थित हुए हैं। इस अवसर पर अधिक कुछ न कहते हुए मैं आप सबको शुभकामनाएं देता हूं और यहीं पर अपना निवेदन समाप्त करता हूं। आप सबको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Thank you so much, sir, for your words of encouragement. They will surely inspire all of us, especially the startups and innovators, to join hands with IDEX as our country is on the path of Amrit Kal. Ministry of Defence has always strived to promote cutting-edge technologies in defence. Mission Def Space was launched by Honorable Prime Minister.
Today, we are proud to bring the 9th edition of Defence India Startup Challenges focused on the domain of cybersecurity. May I request Honorable Raksha Mantri ji to please press the button and launch Disc 9 challenges to the nation.
Launched by Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi in 2018, IDEX. A pioneer in innovating and developing cutting-edge technologies for armed forces in land, sea and sky. IDEX has built a strong innovation ecosystem in the defense sector. It is now expanding its ambit to tackle national security in the critical domains of space and cyber. With the new age of digitization, cybersecurity threats and challenges are not limited to the digital world, but have become a matter of national security. To mitigate the security risks and develop next-gen technologies, IDEX is launching cyber security themed Disc 9 with the aim to ensure confidentiality and integrity of data in systems. These challenges span over a wide range of advanced technology domains. Indian Army with 3 challenges. Indian Navy with 3 challenges. Indian Air Force with 7 challenges. Bharat Electronics Limited with 3 challenges. Midhani with 2 challenges. GRSE, MDL, BEML with 1 challenge each. Further strengthening the IDEX initiative, the Ministry of Home Affairs has also brought 7 challenges through the Indian Cybercrime Coordination Center. IDEX extends an open invitation to innovators, startups and MSMEs to build a secure and resilient cyberspace for the nation. For more details, visit idex.gov.in.
Thank you, sir. Disc 9 application window is now live. We invite Technology Solutions to the 28 listed challenges in the domain of cyber security.
With a growing defense startup ecosystem, it is crucial to address the capital funding requirements of our innovators. Today, IDEX Investor Hub is being launched for the IDEX winners and investors to meet and interact.
May I please invite and request our Honorable Raksha Mantri ji to please launch the IDEX Investor Hub for the startups and investors.
Arey, come back. Excuse me. ये कौन है? with the launch of IDEX Investor Hub. Today, we present MOUs with 9 leading investors to further strengthen the defense ecosystem. Now I request our investors to join on stage, starting with Venture Catalyst, Agility Partners, Let's Venture, C Fund, and Special Invest.
IDEX is proud to sign MOUs with 3 prestigious institutions working in the domain of space. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, IDEX is proud to sign MOUs with 3 prestigious institutions working in the domain of space. We request Dr. Sudhir Kumar on behalf of ISRO, Dr. Vinod Kumar from InSpace, and Lieutenant General A.K. Bhatt, retired, on behalf of ISPA to stage. Thank you so much. I'd like to hold our dignitaries in the front. Please stay with us. We'll continue our MOU exchanges. I call on stage Lieutenant General Rajiv Chaudhary, Director General Border Roads, Border Road Organization, to please join us on the stage. Ms. Baishali Banerjee, Executive Vice President, Axis Bank, joins us here today. I'd like to request you to join us on stage, ma'am. On behalf of FTC, we have Mr. Sunil Shetty, entrepreneur, investor, and actor. Sir, please, may we have you on the stage. Well, with this initiation, we look forward to strengthen the defense ecosystem for startups. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Thank you. I'd like to request all of you to please be seated.
In
Thank you.
continuation with the objective of IDEX to connect with the youth, innovators, and students, IDEX is launching the next edition of Innovate for Defense, I4D, a 45 days long internship program for students. I request Honorable Raksha Mantri ji to launch the Innovate for Defense internship for students. So, felicitations.
Thank you, sir. Today we are felicitating Colonel Sandeep Singh, Sena Medal, Army Design Bureau, Army Headquarters, for his stellar contribution in accelerating IDEX projects and in facilitating the fast-track procurement of IDEX products. I would now like to request Honorable Raksha Mantri ji to please felicitate Colonel Sandeep Singh. Thank you so much. I'd like to retain you right there with us, sir. As an initiative towards achieving self-reliance and to accelerate indigenous technology development, the Indian Army is today releasing compendium of 110 problem statements for the indigenous defense research, design, development, and manufacturing ecosystem. I humbly request our Honorable Raksha Mantri ji and all the dignitaries on stage to please unveil Indian Army's compendium. all our dear audiences who are here today, you can download the document by scanning the QR code on the standees that is placed on the left and right, and you can get more information on the same. Thank you.
In a short span of time, IDEX has grown by leaps and bounds. After taking 3 years to sign a 100 contract, IDEX signed its 150th contract with next 5 months. Today, we are celebrating the signing of our 200th contract in less than 2 months following the 150th contract. We welcome Ultra Dimensions Private Limited to our family as a winner of the IDEX Prime Sprint Challenge submersible boat of the Indian Navy. I call on stage Mr. Sanjay Anigiri, CMD, Ultra Dimensions Private Limited.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big hand to all our dignitaries on stage, to all our innovators, to all our startups who joined us here today. Thank you, sir, for your patience. Thank you for standing by and staying with us throughout. Now, I would like to request Additional Secretary Defense Production, Shri T. Natarajanji, to deliver the closing address. Over to you, sir.
A very good morning to the Honorable Raksha Mantri ji, Secretary Defense Production, all dignitaries on the dais, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I thank the Honorable RM for his inspiring words and constant encouragement in strengthening and expanding the startup ecosystem under IDEX. On behalf of the entire DIO team, I extend heartfelt thanks to all the innovators for participating in the Manthan 2023 held during Aero India and making it a huge success. I thank the Honorable RM for launching Disc 9 on the cyber security theme. For the first time, we have a joint collaboration with the Ministry of Home Affairs. These 30 challenges curated from DPSUs, services, and Ministry of Home Affairs reflect the deep impact and the interest IDEX has generated, particularly among the youth. Our progress towards deep innovation and achieving Atmanirbharta received huge impetus when the Honorable Prime Minister launched Mission Defense Space, DefSpace, during Def Expo 2022. IDEX is working actively to take these challenges to a logical conclusion. The Honorable RM, with his vision to encourage startup promotion and innovation, launched IDEX Prime with the increased funding amount of rupees 10 crore. Today, we felicitated winners of IDEX Prime challenges, and we welcome all the winners to our family. To accelerate growth of defense startup ecosystem, IDEX has partnered now with the Indian investor community. IDEX Investor Hub, which has been just launched by the Honorable RM, is aimed at accelerating investment in defense sector and providing investors with a unified view of opportunities for innovation. The DIO has signed MOUs with several investors to allow the investor community to identify synergies and escalate their investments in defense-based startups. With a view, the IDEX also aims to further inculcate the tradition and the innovation and entrepreneurship in the generation, in the current generation and the future generation of our citizens. With this view, Honorable RM has launched 4th edition of Innovate for Defense, I4D, internship for the university students. This 2 months experience will be substantial in gaining experience of working with the defense startups, with our services and Ministry of Defense together. I invite all the students to apply to this unique opportunity. I once again thank the Honorable RM for his constant encouragement and sparing his valuable time for coming here and encouraging all the youth here. I thank all the partners in the Manthan program, the services, the industry, the startups, the academia and research institutions, and friends from the media for making this Manthan a great success. Thank you and namaskar.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much to our Shri Raksha Mantri. Thank you, sir, that you took your time out and joined us here. Bahut bahut dhanyawad. Thanks a lot once again to all our dignitaries who took time out and joined us here. We'd like to request our rest of the audiences, our guests who've joined us, our dignitaries who are here with us today. We do have 2 panel discussions which will move on immediately, and we'd like to request all of you to please stay with us. Kindly be seated. Requesting all of you to please stay back as we have 2 panel discussions. Those of you who are seated behind, we'd like to urge all of you to please take your seats.
Program happened so quickly.
Ladies and gentlemen, the panel discussion topic, the first panel discussion will lead into next generation warfare technologies in national defense. The topic is next generation warfare technologies in national defense.
Moving along with the first panel discussion for today.
We'd also like to request all of you to please take your seats. Those of you who are on the aisle, please be seated. We're about to begin our next panel discussion. Requesting all of you to please take your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to begin the first panel discussion. I'd like to urge all of you to please take your seats. We'd like to request our panelists to join us with us on the stage.
I request the entire IDEX team to please prepare for the next panel discussion. Requesting IDEX team to please prepare the audience for the next panel discussion.
It should be Milestone. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to request all of you to please take your seats. Those of you who are standing on the aisles, please take your seats. We have 2 panel discussions that is lined up. The first panel discussion is on the topic Next Generation Warfare Technologies in National Defense. And our panelists are Padma Shri Dr. Mailaswamy Annadurai, ex-director URSC ISRO, Mr. Karthik Bappanad, Head of Karnataka Center of Excellence in Cyber Security, Mr. Vinayak Godse, CEO Data Security Council of India, Mr. Srinath Ravichandran, co-founder and CEO Agnikul Cosmos. And I also welcome the moderator for the session, Mr. Mudit Narayan, Advisor, DIO, and former Technology Officer, Office of PSA to Government of India. Meanwhile, those of you who are around, could you please lend us your attention? In due respect to our panel and our speakers who've joined us here today, may I request all of you to please take your seats. Would like to request all of you to kindly be seated. In due respect to the panel and our speakers, may I request all our dignitaries, our guests, to please be seated. जितने लोग यहाँ पर मौजूद हैं, पैनल डिस्कशन शुरू करने का समय आ गया है एंड आप सभी से दरख्वास्त है कि कृपया बैठ जाइएगा. ಯಶಂದ್ರಿಗೆ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗುತ್ತೋ ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಆಸೀನರಾಗಬೇಕಾಗಿ ಕೋರಿಕೆ. Ladies and gentlemen, the first panel discussion is about to begin, and this is on the topic Next Generation Warfare Technologies in National Defense. We have our speakers with us on the stage. A panel is set, and I'd now like to hand over the panel to our moderator, Mr. Mudit Narayan. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Welcome, all of you. This will be a short, quick conversation, but on a very important topic, and some topics which were alluded to by the Honorable Raksha Mantri as well, on the role of technologies in national defense. And given that we have a fairly small audience, I request those who are in the middle of the back to come up in the front. We make it a better conversation that way. The format we'll be following is that I'll be introducing the speakers individually and then ask them to introduce their work. We have a very varied and diverse panel today. Thank you all my co-panelists for joining. We'll be going across issues around space, cybersecurity, but I'll also be taking a few questions which I received from Twitter and friends on social media, which excited a lot of, and the announcement of the panel excited a lot of conversation about what future warfare or defense looks like. So if I can request, I'll invite Dr. Annadurai to start. Dr. Annadurai is a distinguished space scientist of international repute. He has a PhD in engineering and has served at ISRO for more than 36 years. He has contributed to more than 60 satellites in India. In his long tenure, he has been, most importantly, the project director of Chandrayaan and the program director for Mangalyaan, prominent programs of ISRO. And apart from that, has led a team of more than 3,000 scientists. And he was always also instrumental in operationalizing NAVIC constellation. I'll request Dr. Annadurai to give us his thoughts about where he sees the evolution of space in terms of strategic defense and capabilities. And if I can ask you, what keeps you up at night? What are some issues that the technologists need to think about? Dr. Annadurai.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Just to put the things where are we now and where this may lead to. I think that's what I'm trying to put it together. So now you look at here that defense point of view. Now you know that the uninterrupted space navigation is the must because whether the air, sea or land is concerned. And while doing that, one is basic navigation, another one is the connectivity. How they are connected to the command and control, and that's the thing. So then comes to the imaging for the change detection. What is happening and what was originally, what is now. So this needs to be a very, very both the spatial and temporal resolutions better it should be provided. And this point of view, definitely space provides a very, very vantage point. You know what's happening in Ukraine and Russia. Definitely the space gives an advantage in terms of navigation, connectivity and the change detection, and I think it even provides the online warfare systems also. I think I understand it's happening there. So towards that, I think we have to, we have the good number of operational system, NAVIC is in place, but I feel the urgency is NAVIC being operational now, and the continuity should be ensured. This, you know, that NAVIC system, it said its own life limited, and already we are into the 5th, 6th year now. So NAVIC 2 is now that definitely need, and that connects both commercially as well as strategically. And the connectivity point of view also, it has a dual edge, and we know, yes, we have a good number of the INSAT systems, and even the latest GSAT 11 and 29 set of things. He has given much more connectivity also, KU band. But beyond that, I think the low Earth communication is emerging. And in that, I think with the defense, how we can play a role, especially now we have launched the OneWeb constellation, and the possibility of the OneWeb equivalent or OneWeb thing, whether coming to the space communication to be definitely to be explored, what is there and what is possible. And beyond that, yes, the quantum communication, quantum key transfer is the R&D. That R&D things are coming out, but definitely it has to be accelerated to for the operational point of view. And while doing all these things, we should prepare our own thing, the space system assets, how we will ensure it is being kept intact. Okay, towards that, at the situational awareness point of view, yes, the initial hardwares in the ground system has come, but I think there may be a need for even the space systems to have its own self-learning and self-know that the system and sense and activate. I think that is the emerging system is coming. So that means the future satellites itself should be equipped towards that. This is the, I think. And while doing all these things, these are all the things. And I feel while this happening there, we should be ready for the launch on demand on the satellites as well as this. I think if your satellites should be launched for tomorrow with the requirement of X, Y, Z, I think we should have fit and place and launch tomorrow. I think towards that, definitely the systems are coming up, but this needs to be operationalized in terms of the tomorrow's the system point of view. Then beyond all these things, there is a possibility of the space also playing a major role, like whatever happened, the nuclear being a deterrent, the immense deterrent we are talking about. Similarly, we can showcase some of the technical capabilities so that our systems are attacked, and we are, even though our attack will be second, we also have the technical readiness. That means immobilizing the space assets. Technical possibility exists. And I think we have to keep moving forward, especially when we are talking about the youngsters here, and we are talking about very much possibilities. I think immobilizing enemy satellites and space navigation, towards that intelligent space navigation, docking, and laser targeting, something like that. Many such things are possible. I think the list grows, but definitely that opens up a totally different view of how space can be a deterrent to safeguard our space assets. I think this is the one thing that I feel it's sparking my mind, because we have good number of space assets that allows both civilian as well as defense point of view. But the space assets are vulnerable today. Okay, to avoid that, I think we should show our muscle power so that if we are our systems are attacked, your system also equally for that, I think we have the capabilities, I feel. I think that has to be pruned, and that has to be nurtured and to come to that. I think this is the last one is the one which is coming in my mind, because space assets we made, but how to space guard our space assets? Less money I saved, but how my money is safe? Okay, similarly, yes, we have made good amount of space assets. How safe for space assets? What we can do? I think that is the thing summarizes.
Thank you, Dr. Nadurai. I think that spurs a lot of questions in my mind, and I'm sure in the audiences, but we'll come back to you. If I can now go to Mr. Karthik Bapanad. Mr. Karthik Bapanad is a technologist with a keen interest in public policy. He has more than 20 years of IT experience with 8 years in cybersecurity. And he's amongst those few people who've come to the top, starting off from coding and moved on to systems integration and then program management. He has 10 years of international experience across 5 countries and 4 continents, and has managed end-to-end cybersecurity programs in various domains. And Karthik, I'll of course invite you to talk about the work and what keeps you up at night or what gives you comfort, but also maybe talk about the interface between the private sector and the governments in a sense of competition or collaboration, because in this space, the private sector, the individuals, all of us have a very big role to play. I say that the border is no longer just in the deserts or the icy hills, but in our hands every day. So how does that interface work? Mr.
Thanks, Mudit. Good morning to all. First of all, my gratitude to the organizers for inviting me to the panel discussion. SciSec is Karnataka State's K-Tech Center of Excellence in Cybersecurity. It's a center funded by the Karnataka State Government and operationalized at Indian Institute of Science. In our center, we do cybersecurity awareness campaigns for general public. We do skilling programs for students in technical courses, and we run an accelerator program for cybersecurity focused startups. We consider ourselves a think tank, do tank, working in the intersection of technology, cyber, and public policy. Before I answer your question, Mudit, I think with the topic being next-gen warfare, I think there are two key distinguishing characteristics of next-gen warfare. First is the importance of non-kinetic technologies, right? So whether it be digital technologies or biotechnology, these are going to play a more and more important role in warfare in future. The second key distinguishing characteristic is the deperimeterization of the conflict itself. So whether it be land, air, water, the conflicts need not be only limited to the perimeter, the geographical boundaries, but it will happen. It can happen here in our midst. So the corollary of these two characteristics is that the defenders are not just from the defense services, from the military, right? Every technologist, all of us here are going to be defenders. Every technologist who develops a technology solution, every technologist who deploys a technology solution, every technologist who operates a technology solution, who configures a technology solution, who maintains, manages, even uses a technology solution needs to be part of this defense, because the intrusion into our systems can happen from any one of these points as well, right? Now coming to your question, so first, what gives me hope? What gives me hope is, of course, the deep technology talent pool that we have in our country, right? So for the next few decades in India, we are still going to have a demographic dividend, compared to other large economies. We still have a culture where education, knowledge acquisition is still valued. And we are slowly climbing up the technology value chain, right? Slowly but surely. What makes me concerned is our ability to leverage this technology expertise for nation building, right? And I can elaborate on it later, And that brings me to the other part of your question, how do government and private sector, how can we collaborate? I think we need to recognize that the deep technical expertise will always be in the private sector. And with technology playing such an important role, it's important that the collaboration framework needs to be very clear and mature. But what that means is that the technical expertise in the government sector, in the public sector also needs to be significant, because otherwise we'll always see the private sector with some bit of distance, with some bit of ambiguity, vagueness, with some bit of doubt, because we don't understand a lot of times what they are talking, right? So I'll probably stop here and maybe happy to elaborate later.
very important insight that the government needs its own strengths to be able to harness private sector expertise and experience. Absolutely. Let me at this point then bring in the flag bearers of the Indian startup ecosystem, the space startups. And Srinath Ravichandran received his master's degrees in aeronautical engineering and from University of Illinois, and also has had a career in financial engineering. So at some point I'll ask you about this transition. But when it comes to engaging with the space sector, going forward from what Dr. Anadura as well said, and as the space reforms that we've seen in the last few years, what has been the frame of mind or the narrative within the private sector, space sector, in terms of where you play a role in national defense, security, and what is the motivation when this kind of work comes in? Of course, you have a private sector business market, but what is the orientation when you think about the role of private sector in next generation warfare?
Sure. Thank you for having me here. Yeah, it's a very interesting question. So I'll first talk a little bit about this from what we are doing, right? And at Agnikul, we are building launch vehicles that take small satellites to orbit on demand. So very much resonating with what another research said here, right? In terms of having the launch on demand capability in our country. So in the context of what private sector is capable of doing and is expected to do for nation building, I think I would have 3 points to add here. First one, I think, is at least the commercial side today, and very recently in the defense side as well, I'm seeing strong government initiatives coming up. We had in the commercial space side, in space being set up, right, as a new body to authorize and promote space activities by private players. We had a recent set of defense space challenges, and all the problem statements there were extremely relevant, not only from a national security standpoint, but also from a pure commercial standpoint. So I thought that was a good mix of problem statements that were given, because when you solve for one, you're also automatically solving for the other, which is important for the private sector, because we'll have to have a sustainable business model around whatever we are building. So that's one thing. I think that is a good first step that we are seeing, and I hope that continues. The second aspect here, which I think could probably get a little more focus from all of the private players, is now that Make in India as a movement has been very successful, right? I think we should all start looking at something like Design in India or Conceive in India or something of that sort, right? Wherein the core technological innovation actually originates in India. And I think we are there in terms of talent, like what Mr. Karthik said here, and we are here in terms of the industry as well, in terms of, say, the money flow that's available today, and all the things have changed in the last 5-6 years. So, but I think from a private sector standpoint, as opposed to only manufacturing, I think a little more focus on design would really help in creating original ideas and innovations here. And finally, I think this is a little more about hiring and nurturing the talent that is here. There is this general common notion that I have seen is that, probably going outside is the best way to excel in outside the country, to study or to work is the best way to excel in technologically strong, focused area. And that may be some sort of a hangover from the past. But I think that is changing actively today. We see a number of successful startups and also private players taking up newer initiatives. And the more that concept percolates through everyone, we will just have a lot more people attempting a lot more things in India, which will actually add on to both point number 2 and 1 I said. So that's how I look at it in terms of, how space or any private player in the space and defense sector can contribute directly to nation building.
Thank you. And I think this collaboration through academia between government and citizens is very important. Let me also give a shout out to the team that worked on defense space challenges. I think that's a very strong endorsement of the work you did last year. Mr. Godse, coming to you, you've heard multiple perspectives. Mr. Godse is the CEO of Data Security Council of India. He has over 27 years of experience in information security, transformation, intelligent networking and telecom infrastructure, and he leads the National Center of Excellence for Cybersecurity Technology and Entrepreneurship, a joint initiative of DSCI and the Ministry of Electronics. And prior to DSCI, Mr. Godse worked with the global consulting practice of TCS and has worked as a telecom engineer at BSNL. So you've had multiple exposures across private and public. So maybe starting with what you do, and then how do we all think of the future?
So, see, Data Security Council of India is a think tank and industry body for cybersecurity and privacy in the country. So we had been working, set up in 2008, but 10 years back, around 2012, 13, we started looking at the cybersecurity and opportunity. Services side, we have been doing quite a good job. I was part of the TCS services practices as well as in security. But product side, we thought that let's try to look at who's doing what. So there were only 15, 20 companies at that point of time. And then we started taking a lot of effort in terms of mobilizing those effort and those startups and bring them together, try to focus their agenda in many of the things that we had been doing in cybersecurity space. And around 2015, we come up with NASCOM, DSCI and Government of India, we came up with something called as the Cybersecurity Task Force. It's a sales tape report, which is also out in public domain, and that device, that kind of a specialized effort that we should be put together to create the innovation ecosystem for cybersecurity. And then because of that, this National Center of Excellence, which is in partnership with MIT that we set up in Delhi as a physical facility, but we work all across the country. Primarily it focuses on research because security is a deep tech and security requires a lot of research intervention. It also looks at the incubation and acceleration of security startups. It also looks at the development of those solutions and also finding the market, and also investment nowadays quite significantly. So what we have started doing is in 2013, 14, 15. So now I'm, to my surprise, and to really give credit to all those entrepreneurs and the people who are building those solutions. So we have almost 300 product companies in cybersecurity now. So very sharp jump in the cybersecurity product ecosystem in the country. And what really happened is the private sector organization like even ICICI Bank, SBI, many such organizations started adopting the solutions very well. So our relation with them really helped us to get adoption of these startups very well. And then gradually we started looking at POCs as public sector as well. We work with Government of India to do a preferential market access policy for the cybersecurity, and that to enable public sector organization to adopt the security solutions from the startup side basically. And that's why we work with now oil energy company, power sector organization, shipbuilding organization, the airport infrastructure. So it becomes easy for us to, with some of this policy intervention, to get the even order given to the startups by government and public sector organizations as well. The entire ecosystem is now, since last 2-3 years, we started focusing, as you see in other parts of the globe, especially multiple visits to Israel and US, I have seen that the way the defense works with the security startup ecosystem. And then we started taking a lot of effort in this area. So, and initially, yes, it took time for us to understand how the defense ecosystem works. But now we have very good, interesting case studies. So, for example, in one of the defense unit, which was supposed to be bringing some of the application on the internet. So almost 17 of our startups are working to build entire security stack. So we can claim now that Indian capability is used to build the entire security stack in cybersecurity space. So now we are working with other army units as well to solve some of those problems. We got a Navy team a couple of weeks back to sit with us, and we talked to almost 20 plus startups with them. We are working with Air Force now to find the different ideas that they are trying to put together. So now what we have seen in the IDEX ecosystem, and really thankful to the IDEX team basically, the way the time they spend with us and with cybersecurity startup. Yes, if I had to really look at your key question that what awakes me, so it's a possibility basically, right? This tremendous possibility that we see from now on, probably sometimes in our inability to really make things happen to realize those possibilities basically. There's definitely concern that I have as if now, because once you come to a level, then you try to see what is really happening. So one part is certainly we are trying to create this grant ecosystem very well. So we are giving grants, but I would like to see the grants translated to given orders. That's still a challenge. I mean, we are seeing that people are building solutions. Once the solutions are built, people are struggling with getting the purchase order from the defense units basically. And this is happening with almost 6 to 7 of our startups, and we are trying to see what can we do to see that the actual order is coming to startups basically. So those are the things which probably summarizes the work that we have been doing in this area.
Thank you. Absolutely. I think especially the part about having commercial viability through orders. I think IDEX has done a wonderful job in some of the sectors in the early few rounds, but that will evolve. But let me continue with one point on the question about viability of startup. When a startup, and this is open to all panelists, starts looking at defense and security applications, how do they build the knowledge base and in a sense the insight on what they should be developing? What has been your experience, and what would you advise aspiring startups to how to think about that?
Yeah, so my one example I can tell, I took a lot of effort, DSA team, and we try to set up even infrastructure to help that particular unit to deploy these products on pilot basis, and also good part is NSCS, National Cybersecurity Constructed, also committed funds, so which could translate to orders to startups as well, basically. So there's one quantum security, which I just heard from sir in the one. So there is a quantum security stack. So which with that unit, because we build that stack at a layer 3, layer 4, and layer 7 level as well, actually. That also QRNG, QPC, and more importantly, now quantum walk as well, which goes to mobile as well, actually. So this requires long association. Means this particular stack that we are building with that unit has almost more than 1 year, basically. Now things are coming. Now almost 1 lakh plus people are coming on this application, and we are seeing the kind of benefit it's trying to bring together, basically. For Navy, one of my startup is working for last 3 years to build one of the crypto application, basically. And now it has come to the level of the actual order, basically. This is a long run. Cybersecurity solution building is not easy. It takes almost 2-3 years of time to come to a level, basically. And there, we initially they get a grant, and there if they don't get an order, that creates a problem, basically.
Anybody else wants to come in on any point on any of these questions? If not, maybe I can also open it to the audience.
One thing alone. I think not only on cybersecurity, which I fully agree with Sir on, but I think generally when you're looking at security-focused solutions or defense-focused solutions, the gestation period is longer. So when startups or any new initiative, even within a larger company is being, when it's looking at it, I think being prepared for that, right, the long run, and having the right kind of advice in terms of focusing on documentation, focusing on process, focusing on having that patience to get to that level of development in technology is important. Otherwise, I think it could become if there is a lot of impatience in the beginning to get things done very quickly, that may not be sustainable. So just wanted to add that point.
Absolutely. Deep tech requires patience, and one thing that I think the IDEX grants provide you is that sustenance while you develop that product, come into a product, to a pilot and a prototype. Let me open this to the audience. I know we have very few minutes left. If there are any questions from the audience? If not, I'll go back to the questions I received on Twitter and on social media. And this goes to the space side. What is the level of investment, and how do you plan for investments in areas which are still upcoming? And what is the support that is expected of the public ecosystem? I don't want to identify agencies, but the support that the space ecosystem seeks for developing more capabilities which can help in national defense. Starting with Srinath, and then whoever else wants to add on.
I think general from an expectation standpoint and how you craft your journey, right, is to some extent the startup should be able to come up with a set of smaller milestones which add on slowly to go to a larger milestone. Because if you directly go and ask for a lot of money to anyone, it could be a government entity, it could be private investors, it could be VCs. There is that skepticism, right? And as I told you, it takes time as well. So one thing that I have seen in other successful startups and what we have also been doing with our team is that have smaller goals, get there, show that you're capable of getting to that smaller goal. It may not be really a usable product at that stage, but it'll show that the team is capable of something. So I think from a startup standpoint, that is how the journey can be crafted. From a general expectations from different entities and all that, I think, yeah, again, the same question of you cannot apply a model that works for startups building solutions for other industries to startups that are working on defense or security or space solutions. Time, money, and more importantly, the life cycle itself is going to be very different. So a little bit of expectations management, actually.
Thank you. Requesting Dr. Annadurai to come in on this question, and also about, you mentioned issues around navigation, imaging, communication. This multi-domain capability development, where do you see India's strengths and maybe also shortcomings on the technology side for multi-domain protection and awareness?
Yeah, when we talk about a multi-domain, the space point of view, the domain may be multiple, but there are many generic systems are there. Just join with what Srinath has told. Now you look at here the startups point of view also. Now gradually the number of satellites to be launched is keep increasing. Number of launch vehicles also increasing. And the space also now opening to private. And the infrastructure also made available. Technology transfer also keep happening. The volume also keep coming up. So putting the things together, and parallelly ISRO also training every year around 15 to 20 countries for the new people to come to the space. So that way I expect a market is coming, a volume is coming. So the startups point of view, instead of I want to make a full satellite, satellites have hundreds of parts. Let us make it optics, let us make it very many gyros, okay, small systems. But that number you can multiply, okay. So then having done that, then you are already entered into the market, the know-how, technology also there. Then your R&D also comes there. So there, when you chip in there, there is every possibility you also will grow. As a process, the systems also growing. So that accordingly somebody integrates and does this. So that way, the generic systems point of view, I think we can make a new impact. For example, just I have seen that very small optics, a very innovative thing. Even the CubeSats can come out with the imaging system. Okay, that's coming. That means it doesn't mean the bigger the satellites called for, even the smaller and smarter satellites also possible. Okay, so when that comes, definitely the volume and the commerce point of view also will work it out in a better way. So that way, the commonality of across the domains can be seen technically. So then comes out for some of the select people addressing to the NAVIC, someone addressing for imaging, someone addressing for the upcoming communication systems, and someone addressing for the situational awareness, and all put together ground system smartness. Like that if you do, the field is wide open, and the requirements on each one of them also is big. And putting together the initial seed what Space Department provides in terms of infrastructure hiring and the technology transfer being provided with almost throwaway price. I think I know the small satellite is very throwaway price. It has been technology transfer has given. Similarly, SSLV also, I know that SSLV has come now, but SSLV need not, of course, maybe competitor for Agnivel, but that also will come up in a commercially viable situation is possible. So that way, instead of looking for a full goal, I think if they go for the building blocks, take it and try to improve upon that and be smarter in that if you do, I think that plays a win-win case for everyone. And just to add to that, it is not only the fighting the startups, even the Government of India organization, I know, within being in ISRO itself, to get a project done, definitely you have to struggle. It is not that easy work. The system is like that. We have to make sure that what they are asking for and what will be given is given there. I think that probably, I think more or less things are easing it out. But it is irrespective of that, wherever it is there, the perseverance is the real need of the hour, wherever it is.
Absolutely. I think all of us underestimate the role of entrepreneurs, people who are trying to do new things and new projects within governments and corporates, and the role of the corporates or government in distributing new innovations, whether it is coming from startups or elsewhere, often is missed out, and we talk about that. But I think this is now the time when India is starting to have a critical mass of technologies, and you'll need entrepreneurs of both kinds to help them scale. Let me just check how we're doing on time. We have 2 more minutes. Okay, so then one question which I got from a serving officer was around the interplay between developing technologies and developing products. And as a country, we've only started developing this capability of late. So I see Mr. Godse has, let me give it to him right away.
And this is one of the critical area that we grapple, especially in cybersecurity, because a lot of those things require research capability, right? And most of times, academic researchers, and for that matter, even some of the research labs, even IDEX, Keynote, and some other CSR labs as well. So they take a lot of these open research projects and end up in terms of either publishing papers or some prototype. But enterprise product is different, right? You need to have workflow, you need to have good UX, you need to have user management, you need to have a lot of infrastructure considerations, all this thing. So this part is always missed in any research which can granted. Even, and that is one part. Secondly, once you experience cybersecurity, experience matters. Experience on your product matters a lot. If you don't get what exactly this product is doing, and if you don't learn from that, you're not able to think about what is going to happen in the future, basically. In our point, we are really struggling hard, and that's why we started this specific effort of National CVDSA is productization, commercialization, research in cybersecurity space. We track 230 professors' works in cybersecurity research. We try to closely look at what is happening and try to see industries also coming to work with them. We have created fund in DSA to invest in research to show that how it can be productized as well, actually. Our specific team in DSA now who does research funding and more importantly, research productization work, basically. We take a use case from startups, work with professor, and even the agreement that gets signed, especially with IPR on this thing, that also is a big challenge to really solve, actually. So there are a lot of things that should be done, but we are like lucky with all the experience we have, how can we scale up this so that we get more deep tech ideas in the product ecosystem in cybersecurity space?
Thank you. Absolutely. I think this ability to try it out and give a shorter timeline for commercialization is very critical, and I think other sectors also need to strengthen this up. I know we're running short, but any last 10-second comments, or if I close it here? Mr. Karthik, I think if you want, I haven't come back to you at any point. Any 10, 15 seconds?
Okay, in 10 seconds, probably I'll tell this, we today live in times which is unprecedented in history of humankind. The pace at which technology is evolving, the pace at which technology is impacting the society is intensifying very, very swiftly. So, the systems, the institutional frameworks, the mechanism that we had, earlier will not take us forward. So I'll probably leave there.
Thank you. So new generation technologies require new systems and new ways of thinking to develop both the capabilities and the ecosystem to support those capabilities. Thank you so much to all my panelists. Very insightful ideas. I think the audience will go back with new ideas and thoughts. And I'm sure very soon in subsequent editions of Manthan, we will have sessions around how new technologies are helping India's comprehensive national power. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to all our speakers on stage, to the entire panel. Let's give them a round of applause, everybody. Thank you to our moderator, Mr. Mudit Narayan, for moderating the entire session. I know we are some of us, but I would love to hear those applause coming from all of us. Can we do that, please? Thank you. Thank you so much. I would now like to invite Colonel Arvind Kumar, Program Director, IDEX, to please join us on the stage and hand over the token of love and gratitude to our speakers, our moderator on the stage, please. May I have the mementos, please? Yes, you may applaud. Thank you. Can you all put our hands together, please? May we all do so. To the esteemed panel who took time out and joined us here today. And this certainly was informative in data security, cyber security, and so much more that was entitled today to be brought here. Speaking more on the next generation warfare technologies in national defense. Thank you once again. We will quickly move ahead to our next panel as well. I'd request our next speakers to be ready. Thank you so much. We are delighted having each of you with us. Thank you. Thank you once again, Colonel Arvind Kumar, for doing the honors. Lovely having you with us. Thank you. Thank you.
Moving ahead to the second panel discussion for today on the topic, harnessing startup ecosystem for technology leadership, innovative solutions for India and beyond. It's my privilege to introduce our panelists for today, Ms. Kriti Upadhyay, Vice President, Strategic Advisory at C2C Innovations Americas, Lieutenant General A.V. Subramanian, AVSM, VSM, former DG, Weapons and Equipment, Shri Abhishek Jain, Chairman, Startup Forum, SIDM, and FICCI Task Force on Defense Technology, Co-Founder and Chief Business Officer, Zeus Numerics, Shri Navneet Singh, co-founder and CEO, Kepler Aerospace. And to moderate the second panel discussion, I welcome moderator Mr. Vish, co-founder and CEO, Forge Innovation and Ventures.
May I now have all the speakers and the moderator joining us with us on the stage, please. Thank you for your patience. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Ms. Kriti Upadhyay, may we have you on the stage, please? Lovely having each of you with us. Thank you. I would now like to hand over the session to our moderator, Mr. Vish Sahasranaman. Over to you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, IDEX, DIO, for the opportunity. We have a panel with some very esteemed members representing the key pillars of the defense innovation ecosystem. So we have 4 esteemed speakers. Before I get to their introductions, let me quickly set the context. So the topic for the panel discussion is harnessing startup ecosystem for technology leadership, innovative solutions for India and beyond. I think the operating word is obviously startup, and how technology leadership can be achieved through this partnership between the startups and the government through the MOD and other allied organizations. And also we're looking at not just Indian domestic demand, but can we also look at serving global interests, global demand equally. So to get started, I have from the defense, representing the Indian Defense Services, Lieutenant General A.V. Subramanian. After 4 decades of illustrious service in the Indian Army, where he led from the front several strategic initiatives in the areas of capital acquisition and development of training simulators, has after retirement focused on widening the private sector's capabilities toward realizing the vision of Atmanirbharta. Sir, let me start with you. The first question. The role of the military user in ensuring we leapfrog from incremental innovation to disruptive innovation. How can a product management role be played by users, moving away from the mindset and process of procurement management? And I would request you to also sort of to build on this topic and talk about the global relevance of what we're building here, how it can be scaled to serve the global demand. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Vish, for this opportunity. It is always a pleasure to be working with Vish, inspiring opening address that he had given. And thanks to the DAO organization, which has actually put this whole process together, and thanks to all of you in the audience who are patiently participating in this kind of an event, though it is late in the day. The inspiration for all the things that we are talking, of course, might come today from the inspiring speech which our defense minister delivered in the morning. Unbelievably inspiring, because the way in which he connected the differential that we are suffering in the world in the science and technology and turning that into advantage, and how the rules of the game need to be changed. And if you look at any issue from a green point of view, your whole thing will change. You really set a kind of a thinking which is very different, which is very inspiring. I am sure that will definitely give us the way ahead as to how we should go. Vish had been known to be provoking me, and he continues to provoke me even here. He says, you pongos, you guys who are in uniform, you know only processes and procedures, and you are talking about innovation. Now you are going to talk about the paradigm shift which has got to come in technology. How are you? You are a procedure-bound guy. How are you going to innovate? And if you've got to innovate, you've got to disrupt. To disruption and procedure, they are all in contradictions around here. That's what Vish is actually provoking me to getting into this on this. I would say, especially with respect to national security and military research, if the research work is mission informed, then that research immediately becomes highly relevant, and its urgency is also well realized. A program manager in this kind of an environment, especially when is involved with innovative kind of an environment, has at once must be at the cutting edge of technology, must be able to communicate with academia with ease, should be able to understand the user requirement and paraphrase the requirements in languages which are applicable, which will inspire all the three sectors, and still stay focused and continue with this task which may appear impossible when you actually start with, but you have a drive that you got to go ahead and achieve it. People have done it. Armed forces have done this earlier. And Arihant wouldn't have become Arihant but for the fact of what others actually believed in, and they did it very quietly for long periods of time, because even the press was not allowed to cover that portion, so we did not even know what the team did. But we in uniform, we know exactly as to what the team was actually going through and what kind of internal churn that they were doing on this for them to achieve. Now that we have come out with innovation in the open, now that IDEX and such kinds of frameworks have been put into place, it becomes much more interesting for the people in military to work with those who are inspiring from the civil, and thereby cross-fertilize and learn from each other, and then move from processes and procedures to innovation and disruption, and migrate between these two spaces seamlessly, because you got to innovate to establish the technology, and you got to follow process and procedures to ensure that the technology is sustained, the orders are produced, the taxpayers' money is spent along. All these things have got to be done. So I do not see any contradiction between these two. Now, when we are in a G20 kind of an environment, in that one, the military research will have to take an international paradigm also, and we need to be on the innovation index. We are somewhere in the middle of the G20, if you put the spectrum there, and those who are below us, we need to take them along, and those who are above us, we've got to we've got to learn from them. We've got to go ahead and do this. And many in the military research can actually mean a dual use kind of an approach, which can be for the military and also for the civil space, particularly soldier comfort. Can the soldier have the kind of a food whenever, wherever, whatever be the circumstances? Can the food be manufactured on site? Can water be given to him on site? Can shelter be produced on site? These are all systems that the military would eminently want innovations in this kind of an area, science to be pushed and technology to be advanced, but it has great ramifications to the world along. And hence, there are a number of areas where military and civil world can really prosper. Internationally, we can go ahead, and those in the military can become good program managers, cross-working across many disciplines with academicians, with innovators, with industrialists. With that, I hand you over.
Thank you, sir. In fact, if you look at technology leadership, you need a sizable market for that leadership to really materialize. And obviously, in many situations or many product categories, the demand from the military is always going to be limited. And therefore, the dual use potential, how do you scale from defense into, let's say, civilian applications or commercial industrial applications? That transition is very important. And we've kept that at the very heart and core of IDEX. Many of the problem statements that have come through, we've looked at whether this has dual use potential. And those startups who show more potential in terms of dual use, sort of capabilities, are obviously given a leg up in terms of how they're fast-tracked and how their technologies can actually see the light of the day much faster than others. So thank you, sir. I will be coming back to you to wrap up some of these very pertinent points you've raised. Let me move over to Mr. Abhishek Jain, to my immediate left. Abhishek is Chief Business Officer of Zeus Numerics. It is an IDEX startup / MSME and IDEX innovator, a leading technology and innovation-powered MSME making rapid strides in developing core products for several end-use applications, both in defense as well as in aerospace. Abhishek, what I would request you to do is to shine light, of course, from your experience and from what you see, your perspectives in the ecosystem. Are Indian startups, especially those that are developing and translating core technologies into commercial solutions, are these startups able to build critical partnerships with the incumbents, the big companies, the major defense manufacturers, to accelerate their scaling in product, both industrialization of the product and the production, in distribution, in sales, and in marketing? So what's working and what is not working from your understanding and perspectives from your sense of being in this for quite some time now. Yeah, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'll be very brief and very possibly practical. So what happens is, one is that I would not like to say that people are not doing collaborations. I would also not say that many people are doing collaborations. It's somewhere in between. Now what is happening is, when you are a big company, the collaboration happens only when the big boss has a vision and has the time. And when you are a small company, the collaboration happens when you have humility and openness. Now the unfortunate part is that all 4 ingredients have to be there for the collaboration to happen. If one is missing, there is some problem, okay? The second part of the problem with startups is that they do not understand the difference between a technology and a product and then sales. So my experience is that I think technology is only some 20–30%, but making the technology to product is some 30–40%, and then sales is also 30%, which many people are not able to understand. I think it happened so I am from IIT Bombay. We used to see that मेरे पास इतना अच्छा technology है, ये तो बिकेगा ही. And then you go to the user and you find out that it's not required. It's just useless. It was only in your thoughts that you felt that it is very useful. So I think that is one problem. The second problem I think that is happening is, so there are many good things about IDEX, but also what is happening is, you are giving too much comfort to the startups, probably. Like even giving passes for eating food. Now what happens is, and some of the messages that you see in the WhatsApp groups of what they're demanding, so I started in 2004 when startup was not even a word, and there were many problems, including in my marriage, I had a lot of problems. So, but what happens is, now it has become so easy that sometimes we have become a little more self-obsessed. And then what happens is, we are not able to make the first move. Do you think a big guy from a big company is going to make the first move towards you, even if he likes you? He has neither the time and sometimes not the vision. So you have to approach. I think it's something like what you did in college. You liked the best girl, but if you're not as smart as Wish, then you have to have confidence and the first move, hard work. And that's how you get to your target. So I think
my marriage in risk.
Yeah. So I think please make the first move. And also a lot of informality also has come in the startups. I think we are in defense sector. The idea in whatever, I mean, in the shows like pictures, etc., they say ki chaddi pehen ke jao, t-shirt pehen ke jao. I think this is not that sector. I think let's be formal and let's be to the point. We are neither formal nor to the point. So because we are self-obsessed, I think so we need to think about that. The third problem that is happening in startups is, now there are many startup awards, 10 by 10 startup, 30 by 30, 40 by 40, and I know, I mean, there are numbers. Somebody may 35.5 by 35.5, I don't know. And what happens is, when you get something like that, you feel that you have really reached a point where you have really done something. And the same happens with when you reach this place. So I'm a speaker now, and I'm like, I was called as a speaker there, and then suddenly you feel that you really achieved something, which is good. I'm not saying it's not good. It's very good for marketing, but sales is also something plus, which is a problem. So I don't think the startup should get swayed by things like they have gotten an award or thing. And the last point that I want to make is, and this is final, I think with startups also, and with some of the big companies also, we have that habit of being Mr. Do-All. Okay, so for example, I am in antenna. I know nothing about aerodynamics, but I want to make a shell which is fired from artillery gun. Now that's a multidisciplinary problem. It would have some very practical aspects, like for example, when you fire zone 6 of artillery, you are going to get a 20,000 G loading. You may be very good in design of electronics, but it will not survive that load. Who will tell you that? Because you are not receptive. So I think the idea that I would be Mr. Do-All, whether it's a big company or small company, it would never work. Collaborate, and make the first move. Thank you.
No, very valid points, Abhishek. If I were to sort of sum it up, I think this has been a very important aspect that we've looked at, not just from IDEX, but also from a Forge point of view, is that we expect startups to scale not just in the dimension of technology or product. Because ultimately you're building a company, right? And particularly for IDEX startups, you're expected to become a long-term supplier of that technology and that product to Indian military. So which means you need to scale in multi-dimensions. So whether it's talent recruitment, whether it's culture, values, whether it's partnerships, you have to build along all of those dimensions. So that's very important. So thank you for bringing that up. I'll now move to Navneet Singh to my far left. Navneet is the founder and CEO of Kepler Aerospace, specializing in space surveillance technologies and solutions, who is admittedly obsessed with the use of space for defense and intelligence applications. And he is leading execution of naval LCA Tejas data link, Abhyas drone data link, and BioWest avionics for Gaganyaan, among other projects. Navneet, if you can come in on how India can become a global leader in space, not just riding on life cycle costs of hardware, the benefits of lower life cycle costs of hardware, or leveraging the economics of lower cost of operations and services, but primarily on the basis of technology leadership, if not supremacy. How do you see this playing out over the next decade? Over to you, Navneet. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. So that's a very pertinent question when we come towards the growth of space industry in general. And I would like to take the analog of how we started work in our two-wheeler sector or the automotive sector, for example. We started out by mass producing and copying mopeds.
Yep.
I mean, Honda started that. And today our bikes are some of the best in the world. Why? Because Indian companies realize that you just cannot keep doing CKD kits, you cannot keep doing, what we call in defense parlance, screwdriver giri, and continue to grow. There is a certain limit to that growth. You can only grow to a certain limit by catering to the services industry.
Yeah.
In the end, you have to go ahead and create something of your own, which is very important. So right now, I would say many of our very big space companies who have done excellent work, but they are mainly into reducing the cost of labor and giving manpower services to either ISRO, DRDO, or foreign companies, which use India's cheaper labor markets to reduce the cost of their product. But that is phase one of the space industry. What I think, especially with startups coming in, with the next gen space companies coming in, we have companies like Dekantra, we have companies like Eon Space Labs. These people are doing actual research and good R&D projects. That is phase two. You need to generate IP. You need to generate new technologies, because in the future, it should not be that you run around to foreign companies and foreign countries looking for opportunities of technology transfer. You should be the ones going and doing it, because that is going to be the final phase. See, innovation and IP generation are very, very important when it comes to growing the economy as well as growing your sector. We can buy components right now. We can buy technology from outside. We can buy subsystems. We can assemble it into, I'll talk about my sector at least. You will assemble it into a satellite and you'll launch it and you'll call it an Indian satellite. That would be great. But the inherent technologies inside are not Indian. They are basically bought out. And there is a limit to how much technology it can be shared with you. There are certain rules and regulations. We all know about ITAR regulations. We all know about EUC generation and stuff for majority of critical components. There will be a time when we are a rising power. So if we get to a point, I mean, we are seeing what's happening with China, though it is happening due to their own transgressions that they are doing everywhere. But still, if you see, the Chinese chip industry right now is severely curtailed because they are under sanctions. ASML, which is one of the largest companies in the Netherlands who supply chip printing facilities, they have been banned from doing service and operations in China. But do the Chinese falter and say, okay, fine, we'll just die? No, they have created a national mission to ensure that they can indigenize those, they can make those components in China, they can create the design IP in China. I mean, the Chinese division of ARM, which is the processor manufacturing company, they basically broke out and said, we will do our own thing in China. So, though I'm not advocating such massive and disruptive operations from our Indian branches of our foreign companies, but I am saying that the time has now come that we need to go towards phase 2 and phase 3, which is actual IP generation, design generation, so that we can meet the critical technological needs in our very, very critical defense technology applications. The sovereignty and the security of this country cannot be it cannot be held hostage by the whims of foreign companies and their reluctances when it comes to sharing technology or giving access to tech. So buying and assemble will always limit the growth.
Yeah.
That is very simple. It will work for you now, it will not work for you in the future. That's why at Kepler we try a lot to ensure that as much as possible our critical technologies are developed in-house. But still there are some limitations to how much Indianization we can do. I mean, we all know there is no chip fabrication facilities in India, and that's why we really hope that some of the big business houses, they come together and actually set up some chip fabrication facilities, so that critical gap in national defense can actually be sealed. And to address the Indian market, there are certain very unique Indian conditions that have to be met. And they cannot be met by off-the-shelf items. They can be met by an Indian-made, Indian-designed off-the-shelf item. But that will require a lot of sacrifice and a lot of work. And I think we are on the way there. It will just take a little bit more time.
Sure. No, I completely understand. I like the analogy because what it also shows is that just the cost advantages and the lower cost of economics can give us maybe a comparative advantage. It can sort of definitely put us into the fray, give us an opportunity to compete. But I think long-term sustainability, self-reliance are all going to be largely built around technology advantages and indigenization of those technologies. I will be coming back to you, Navneet, again, if we have time. And if you can just take one or two specific areas within the space ecosystem where you think we can get there in, let's say, 5 years to 10 years. I think that would be good. Well, I'll come back to you after I go to Kriti next. So we have, to my far right, we have Kriti Upadhyay. She is a Washington, D.C.-based U.S.-India policy leader. Presently, Kriti is Vice President of C2C Innovations Americas, an intelligent platforms company providing defense and Industry 4.0 solutions globally. Kriti is also the founder of Indus Tech Council, a Washington, D.C. and New Delhi-based think tank, working to intensify U.S.-India technology collaboration through greater investment and technology transfer. Thank you for being with us here, Kriti. Kriti is, again, a flag bearer that takes the message that Indian startups have arrived to US and to beyond. So, Kriti, where you can sort of shine light in today's conversation, the question I have for you is there a strong case for taking Indian startup innovation as a major advantage for global defense primes and aerospace space tech majors, making this a very key part of their strategy toolkit? Basically, can Indian startups become partners for global primes, to give them all the advantages that we've been talking about? Do you see that somewhere on the horizon? Are there indications of those realities, scaling up? Is it time to replicate the global delivery model of the Indian IT sector, where you basically build in India and you serve the whole, the global IT demand, is what has, led to the Indian IT sector becoming a $200 billion a year, sector today, industry today. So do you see that in the high-tech for industrial, defense, and strategic sectors? Do you see that sort of a model playing out? Would be my question to you. Over to you.
Thank you, Vish. I think you hit the nail right on the head over there. I think there's so much that Indian companies, startups can provide, and it's, most of the conversation is often dominated by how we can get TOT from abroad, what we can get, but we often lose sight of what we can bring to the table, which is actually quite a lot. So I'll take the example of US. I often say that, if US has innovation, then India as a partner can really provide that scale. So let's go back to some of and I'm not making any of these things up. This is all in the DoD, the great work of folks like Bob Burks, Ash Carter. The three things that are really threatening the US ecosystem right now. Supply chain resiliency. There was a time when for each component, 10, 15 folks, startups were coming from within the US. Now, many of those supply chains are coming from Taiwan, China, very fragile areas. And I'm not just talking about the F-35 metal that was in the news. I'm talking about critical stuff, CJ-130s, 12 critical supply chains coming from China, rocket propulsion systems. Secondly, rising costs, ratcheting costs are becoming a problem. So this is not something that developing countries or we deal with. This is becoming a huge problem even in the Western world. And then finally, talent. And this is going to get worse because I see that after COVID, enrollments have gone down anywhere from 10 to 20%, even in the developed world. And when you think about these things, Wish, I think it almost rings a bell in your head that all these things, India really is the answer.
Correct.
And you see some of these trends already happening almost on their own. Today India, which used to be a net importer, is now exporting. Exports have grown manifold, almost 8 times in like 6 years. We're exporting to more than 70 countries. Innovation is happening. It's happening in India. There's great work that IDEX is doing, Wish is doing, but sadly one Wish and one Virmani and one Mudit is not going to cut it. We need hundreds of IDEX, we need hundreds of Wish to really take this to the next level. Now, when we talk of innovation, it's easier said than done. It's easier said than done than actually integrating into these global supply chains. But what are the things that we need to be thinking about in India? Now, I like to call it the threshold of innovation. Firstly, commercial viability. For all the Desh Bhakti, it has to make commercial sense, right? The government has been in this sector for the longest time. The gestation period is high. There's so much investments to be made. You have to bleed so much in the defense sector before you actually make it. If you find somebody like Wish, you're lucky, but sadly not everyone is as lucky to be associated with Wish. So commercial viability is key, and I'm glad that panelists here spoke about dual use, not only for the commercial viability sense, but also for innovation. Times have really changed now. Gone are the times where you have DARPA, you have the military propelling a lot of the cutting edge tech. There's something called the inverted flow of technology, this phrase that's been going around, which basically means that today the flow of technology, the most cutting edge innovations are actually coming in from the private sector. That's why it's even more important to really pursue dual use technologies. Secondly, tech innovations, right? It has to be the most cutting edge tech. It can't be something that was used 10 years back and then we rejig it or tailor it. It has to be leapfrog on the horizon technologies. We don't need to think about, we keep doing these emergency procurements. I think we need to think about not now and yesterday, but what do we need 10 years from now? What do we need 15 years from now? Because common challenges that we have both in the US and in India, they're thinking about 2030 policy, 2050 policy, and we're still thinking, acha, we needed this yesterday, let's try to procure it today. And then thirdly, we really have to focus on end user concerns. It can be the most cutting edge tech, it can make commercial sense, but is it really answering the needs of our Jawans, of our officers, who are, and of our partners, officers and forces who are actually on the front line dealing with a lot of these things. So I think that we've made some really great progress. India is really coming about. This is an exciting time for Indian defense startups, for the Indian innovation ecosystem. There's much that we have to offer, but it's just a matter of time, and we really have to keep working at it. Just finally, I know that gentleman here mentioned ITAR, DFARS. I think it's good that we are talking about these things now, but just to bring to attention that in the past 20 years, a lot of ITAR relaxations have happened. So more than, I think, hundreds, if not thousands of items have been moved from ITAR to the Commerce Control List within the ECL. India's also provided a lot of exemptions, and India and China are actually the only two countries by the US, with India being the only one which can also use for military dual use. China can only use it for civilian use, this sort of validated end user program where it's like a free license. Sorry, I'm like oversimplifying it right now, but you guys can look it up. You can go on our website where we have a lot of information and research about these issues. So I think we need to engage our partners and apprise them of these issues, because until we start these conversations and start talking about it and say, hey, this is what we need, so that this is what we can bring to the table, it's not going to happen on its own.
No, very important points, Kriti. If I would just take it, from where you left, actually from the very inception, back in 2018 when we started IDEX, I've heard, former Defense Secretary Dr. Jayakumar talk two things at the same breath, right? We said self-reliance, but also export excellence, right? And I'm going to bring General Subramaniam in on this one. So what we're saying is, yeah, let's and he used to say, Dr. Jackman used to say, the best of the world, will not give us the best because they would want to keep the best for themselves, because it's defense and warfare we're talking about. So obviously, we get the second best, and we get it after a very long time, right? And we've got to change that. So it's not just self-reliance, but can we also benchmark ourselves with the very best in the world, right? So that's export excellence. So the question to you, sir, is, we've seen, today we had one of the officers from Army getting felicitated, for the very good work that he's done in terms of pushing forward IDEX, projects. And we've seen several other pockets of excellence in the Air Force as well as in the Indian Navy. Now, would there be a time when, let's say, the users of Indian military, feel proud about being part of developing a technology, translating that into a usable military-grade solution, where it also becomes the best in the world? So we're really talking about going from buying from the catalog to actually co-creating solutions with India's leading technologists and innovators, and to actually the third stage where we're saying, can we make something that's the very best in the world? Do you see that sort of a pride rising within the ranks of Indian military? Your thoughts, sir?
Thanks, Wes. Thank you very much for asking this question. Obviously, that armed forces would like to be part of this journey. Yeah. We have realized that there is an inner hidden ability which was lying dormant in the youth of this country, which just needed to be awakened. And the moment it is awakened, the kind of a solution that they are giving is much more sophisticated, much more cost effective. No longer does the defense technology actually ask for a high upfront investment, a kind of a frugal engineering using which solutions can be found. And when those solutions are found, the solutions can actually be grown further to build further capabilities and become adaptable. At the same time, it is sustainable. All these advantages we are increasingly seeing. Okay. We would definitely like to be part of that kind of a story, where in all our exercises we stand up and say that all the equipment and systems that you have seen in this exercise have all been designed and made in India. And not only that, we have also been part of that design and part of that making. Yeah. I'm sure that the whole of the younger generation which is coming up is definitely rearing to be part of this. I have seen that kind of one across when I had opportunity to speak and interact with people. Assure you that we will definitely be part of this journey, and wherever opportunities are there, we'll be leading this change.
Wonderful. No, very, in fact, we're already seeing the very strong signs of that. So in fact, if you look at from the first edition of DISC back in August 2018 to the most recent that we had launched today, the DISC 9th edition, we've grown in the number of challenges that go into each of these challenges. The last two editions saw 75 challenges launched in each of the editions. Today we had about close to 30. And the pace at which we are coming up with these challenges, the frequency is actually going up very well. So we're seeing a lot of support pull come from the services, and hopefully it's not too long before many of these solutions actually see the light of the day as deployed and operationally ready products. I'll go back to Abhishek, and I'll bring you on the specific topic of how startups should probably look at themselves as developing core technologies, core products. And I have your own very company as a primary example, right? And you showed me how you're building one form of guidance solution, which actually can go into many end use products, right? So how is that? I mean, do you see that becoming a strategy or a vision that entrepreneurs have? The point I'm trying to make really is, how do you get the Indian startups out of the project mentality, right? And to actually look at not each of these as projects, but can you actually see what's the common factor that can come out of all these projects, and can I build that into a core product, and then I put it into multiple end-use products, because that's the scalability which is enormous for me as a company. Do you see that happening? What are your thoughts about this possibility?
Okay, so there may be some repetition, but what is happening is many of them are not talking to the users. And then you do not know what is required and what is not required.
Correct.
There are a few things, for
So
example.
they have a very narrow focus on this.
It's basically, it's not narrow focus. I think sometimes you're self-obsessed and then we feel that our technology is the best. I had one guy in IIT Bombay who said that I'll make Microsoft Windows also. I mean, alone. So, because we feel that we are capable, and sometimes we are blinded by that capability. Now, what is happening is, first is talk to the user. So, for example, this project has been given by Army Design Bureau and IDEX. So, we know that the user is behind this. And of course, they're actively participating also. I can't do firing myself. There would be, the user will have to give me. So, that is one. Second is, I think, we remained in our core technology. If you see the motor that we have kept there, it has mechanical, electronics, and lot many other stuff. But in-house, we are making only the rugged electronics, because that was not available outside. The manufacturing, the machining, etc. is all done through partners. I think we are too much worried about our technology going outside. So it's like, I will not use my shoes because they are very new, and then finally they don't fit me because I did not use it. So that's why I said that humility and openness both are required from the startup point of view. So go to people, meet them. Most of the people in services or in big companies are genuine people, because they have stayed in this sector for quite long time. There may be some people who are not good, leave them. I'm not saying that chase everybody. Whomsoever you find useful, good, chase them. So I think that is one. So remain in your core tech. Like if you ask me what is my core technology, I am a guy who does a lot of design and simulations.
Sure.
Why should I move into heavy manufacturing? Can I forge the mortar or the 155 shell? I should not do that. So that's why I am still repeating myself, but this Mr. Dual approach would not work. Meet people, greet people, make partnerships. So that would really take you afar. And also when you meet the user, sometimes it happens you go and meet and say, "Arey, but ye to yahan bhi lag sakta hai na?" And then you say, "Okay, sir, yes, of course it can be used because this is only controls, and instead of controlling a motor, maybe I can control something which is a gear." It's finally dynamics and control. So I have remained in my core technology, which is aerodynamics, structure, dynamics, control, and stealth. You give me anything around this area, be it hydraulics, because it's fluid dynamics, be it structures, so hydraulics again, or the nose wheel steering manifold, or pump, or naval pump. But if you see whatever I have chosen, these 5 core areas, there has to be an element of that. I think we need to get focused. There is no point, and the final thing that I want to say, most of us, many of us, not most of us, are believing that the valuation game that has happened in all these aggregator startups of house aggregation or taxi aggregation or something like that, I do not think that kind of valuation game would work here.
Sure.
You will have to be patient and you will have to make profits. Nobody is going to fund you because you have 10 MOUs. That happens in only sectors where aggregation, and then you need to only increase the number of users.
Sure.
Here it's not going to happen. I do not think we should go for a valuation game. That is not this sector. This sector would require you to make technology and on someday profits.
Wonderful.
So let's concentrate on core, and for rest we collaborate.
Yeah, sure. So thank you, Abhishek. I'll bring Navneet once again back into this conversation. Navneet, if you can sort of take 1 or 2 examples where you think our Indian startups can get to sort of world level leadership in space technologies, what would those 1 or 2 areas be?
So in my sector, I would like to say that there are a couple of critical systems on satellites that are, usually ITAR controlled, even though, sometimes you get permissions to use them for military satellites. Still, there are certain restrictions. So I think certain technologies such as star sensors, reaction wheels, these are highly mission critical technologies that are still right now being imported from outside. I mean, worldwide, if you see, Southern, Ball Aerospace, and other companies they are the pinnacle of development when it comes to star sensors. In India, we do have ISRO, who has done excellent work over the last many years. we have IASU, which is the ISRO Inertial Systems Unit, which develops star trackers and reaction wheels, and LEOs, which actually does the optical work. And they have done some good job. But I think there is a need for Indian companies and Indian startups to actually develop that entire system in-house. And I think there is the need for bigger companies to join hands with startups that have such technology and help them actually productionize. I think my fellow panel member was quite correct when he said that startups usually have good tech, but they don't know how to actually productionize it for the mass manufacturing or for the user. See, because what happens is when you're trying to develop something, right, startups usually have frugal resources and they just want to get something out. They want to put something out and show, hey, look, we have this tech. But they don't do design for manufacturing, which is very important. See, you can develop the most excellent telescope, but if I can't recreate that telescope every time on, on a machine line without hundreds of hours of manpower of individual fine-crafted, hand-crafted components, I cannot sell it in volume. And if my volumes are not there, my prices are insane, then nobody is going to buy it. And I think that's where we lose it out to, because government contracting is mainly L1 contracting. I mean, as much as we would hate it, it's still L1 in the end. So you have to compete against established players in the market. But you can't compete against them if your technology is not mass manufacturable. It's not meeting the specifications of the factory that you have asked it to manufacture for you. So in the end, I think Indian startups in certain fields, which I said, star trackers, reaction wheels, attitude control systems, and then you have things like payload systems, optical payloads, things like these where I think Indian companies, Indian startups can work together to actually create world-class systems that can compete for export-oriented products, which can compete worldwide. And if and only if you focus on design for manufacture and focus on meeting the user requirement with a minimum viable product where it actually works to their spec, but it's still easy to manufacture and within the price point, it's where you're going to succeed. So I think those would be the areas where I would highly suggest people to work
I'll just take that on and I'll bring Kriti into this one. So we're talking about a transition happening where Indian startups are improving their ability to innovate, their ability to design, develop. But simultaneously, a lot of their own success, whether it's investments, whether it's partnerships, is going to ride on what are the kind of volumes and orders they're going to get from the Indian defense. Now, that's the sort of transitory path that we're on, right? But while we're doing that, do you see a possibility for Indian startups to actively engage with US primes or North American or European primes who already have those sort of order pipelines, fairly set? And do you see some of these startups sort of becoming their innovation product pipeline? Build here, sell, globally through these, multinational companies, both American or European, or could be Australian-based, could be Japan, right? So do you see those kinds of conversations, gaining momentum? Is there a sense of an opportunity there? Your take on that?
Absolutely, Vish. I think demand aggregation is very important. Only now we're starting to talk about aggregating demand and streamlining it within the tri-services, but you and I both know that's not necessarily going to be enough. With the government the only buyer. It becomes tough, even if you're going for dual-use things. There are limitations on where all the applications and use cases can be. So I definitely think that it's going to be very essential to really tap into these export markets. Now, immediately, I think European markets, US markets, some conversations have started happening. We just had ISET, the US-Indian initiative on critical and emerging technologies. There's a quad working group. I think the foundations are being laid. Again, after forever, we're having conversations about export control easing, doing more with India, allowing more with India. But I think it'll take time. Working
Sure.
directly with defense primes is something that I definitely see happening in my lifetime. But I think it's going to take some time. In the meantime, I think our startups in India can start becoming part of the defense ecosystem abroad by just becoming part of the supply chain, even if it's at the second, third tier supplier level. You're still emboldening,
Right.
your partner.
Yeah.
Providing that cost efficiency,
Right.
providing all the technical know-how that you can,
Right.
and in the same time, you're opening a new market
Sure.
for the startups here.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think it's also important because of this, like again, going back to my earlier point, that we really pin out these policy regulatory hurdles
Yeah.
and start having those conversations with our friends, so
Right.
that over time they're really, they start getting relaxed and more can happen
Sure.
with the Quad, with like-minded partners in the Western world.
Yeah.
Finally, I think we also need to bring home the fact that for our partners, if they are looking at the markets going like LATAM, Africa, it's going to be very important to really partner with India. I mean, we talk about S400, THAAD, Patriot, and sure, there were other reasons, but price point many times can make or break a deal.
Absolutely.
And if you're looking at developing markets, then I don't see a better partner than Indian firms.
Indian startups, yeah. No, absolutely. No, thank you, for bringing that out, Kriti. I think that's all the time we have for the panel. Let me once again thank my panelists for their presence and for their amazing perspectives and views. We've been part of IDEX for the last 4.5, almost 5 years now. So we're heavily invested in seeing this, scale up. Speed and scale, I think, are the two governing, defining terms that we're trying to achieve in IDEX and beyond. So hopefully the day will not be very far off when we actually have Indian startups showcasing to global primes. Could be one way to look at it. The day may not be far off when we're actually seeing Indian startups lapped up by either Indian OEs or multinational OEs that have subsidiaries in India, lapped up for partnerships, for scaling their production, scaling the distribution, and so on. And possibly the day will not be too far away when we see Indian tech, becoming truly world-class and becoming the benchmark for others to compete with. So with that, we'll end this panel discussion. My gratitude to the organizers and also to the panelists. Thank you, one and all. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Vish. Let's give a big hand to our moderator, and thank you to all our speakers from the panel. I'd like to retain you for a moment, and I'd like to invite onto the stage Mr. Karan Narula, our Deputy Program Director, IDEX DIO, to please join us on the stage to hand over the mementos to our speakers and the moderator. I would also like to invite onto the stage Srimati Kriti Taneja. May we have you on the stage, please, Deputy Program Director, to hand over the mementos along with Karan on the stage, please. Ma'am, may we have you with us? Let's give a big hand to Ms. Kriti Taneja. Thank you once again to all of you for taking time out and joining us here today and making this event a grand success. This is Manthan, and once again, thank you for each of your time. Thank you once again, Shri Vivek Virmani, IOFS, for presenting the memento. On behalf of IDEX, we extend our gratitude to each of you for your presence. Thank you once again to all our speakers. Thank you, Ms. Kriti. Thank you, Mr. Vivek. And thank you, Mr. Karan. With this, ladies and gentlemen, we conclude the prestigious event of Manthan this year. Thank you so much, and we'll look forward to seeing you in our upcoming events. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.